Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode number 25 of Pharus Global Live at 5. My name is Brian Hartman, and I am here at Pharus Plaza headquarters at 1859 Southeast Port St. Lucie Boulevard in Port St. Lucie, Florida. So come on by and see us. We've got coffee. We have occasional donuts every now and then. We've got a lot of stuff going on and a lot of people you can come and visit with. Definitely have some conference rooms for comfort. So we're happy to speak with you. And at Pharus Global, we are an ecosystem of 8 different companies now under one roof. And we like to say that we help businesses and medical practices and real estate investors from the cradle all the way to the exit. So you can go to pharusglobal.com to learn more about what those services are. Everything from financial management and bookkeeping to medical practice management, billing and coding, which we're going to be talking about today, all the way through insurance services and more. So we are happy to help you in any way that we can. So today I am excited to have with us a very special guest. We have our new Practice Management Director of Pharus Practice. Her name is Lillian Garcia, and today we're going to be talking about a lot of things that are way over my head. A lot of big words in the medical industry, like credentialing and billing and coding and HEDIS and contracting. And we're going to be talking about value-based contracts and MPIP and more. And without further ado, I am going to bring on Miss Lillian Garcia. Hey there. How are you, Lillian?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Brian. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank
you for the introduction.
Excited to have you on board with us. What's it been now? Probably about what? Over a little over a month, something like
Just
that.
Just a little over a month, but very exciting things happening, and I'm very excited to be a part of Pharus Global. I thank you for this opportunity. It's been wonderful, very eye-opening. I see a lot going on that a lot of companies can actually benefit from with Pharus Global. Yes.
Yeah. And now we've got an extra special bonus because now the many medical practices are going to benefit from having what you do and specialize in as well. So for starters, tell everybody about your background and how did you get involved in the medical billing and coding arena?
Okay, well, I have been in the medical field since I was probably 18, just a teenager. I began in the medical field.
Right? Only 2 years ago.
That was just a couple of years ago, yeah.
There you go.
And once I got my foot in, it's my passion, right? So I began, and then I ended up eventually being a practice manager at specialty office. I also was a manager at a multi-specialty practice. And then I was a contract manager at a hearing aids company. I eventually turned to work at a health plan. So I did work at a health plan for almost 7 years.
Wow.
It was really good to kind of come full circle and see, how the practice sees the medical, this medical industry and the health plan as well. So I pretty much just kind of gone full circle. I see the ins and outs, reasoning behind it. I can get some answers to providers. It's like, why did this health plan ask me for this? There are reasons behind it. We need it, right? When you're a health plan. And then the health plans say, why do the providers ask so many questions? Well, they need to know. So I'm here to just kind of, help everybody understand and maybe get a clearer or easier picture as to, these 5 or 6 important points that come up almost on a daily basis with both practices and health plans.
Awesome. Well, we're happy that you went through the circle of career instead of circle of life, I guess we could say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Full circle. So today we're going to be navigating the new norm of medical revenue cycle management, right? So I think for starters, what exactly is revenue cycle management for the audience out there?
Well, it just takes a lot of different components, right, to make sure that your revenue, it takes maybe like making sure that your credentialing is up to date and that your contracts, that you're familiar with your contracts. If you have a value-based contracts, like how are you handling your revenue, right? If you're not familiar with what you have because you're not, as a physician, you're not part of maybe the, what's going on at the front desk, then your revenue cycle may not be working as efficiently maybe as it could. So there are different components that we're going to review and see if maybe I can help you understand a little bit better how that can be helpful to you.
So it's a team effort, basically.
It is.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Before we continue, if anybody out there that is watching us has a question or just wants to say hello or has something that they would like to add that maybe in addition to what we're talking about, drop it in the comment section, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, and we'll be happy to be able to hopefully answer the questions or just say hi. We'll be happy to do that. So without further ado, how about if we jump into it? Lillian, you ready?
Let's jump into it.
All right.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So we wanted to start off with talking about credentialing. So we asked, are you signed up with CAQH, Council for Affordable Quality Health? Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah. So CAQH is also known as CAQH ProView. It's available to providers at no cost. And it's not just a credentialing database. Most providers think, oh, okay, this is for credentialing. So the health plans can pull the data, my demographics from CAQH. It's also used as a source of truth for health plans for your demographics when they're going to put you in the provider directory. How are members going to find you? What number are they going to call? Right? If your CAQH is not updated, you're limiting, the potential of members calling, getting the right number, and not going to a different provider, right? So CAQH, it eliminates, what it does for health plans is that it eliminates the need to request paperwork from you. They can actually go into your CAQH if you give them permission, and they'll ask for permission. You give them permission. They go in and they look for your current license, or they look for your hours of operation, your fax number, your credentialing contact information. A lot of times, there's a lot of turnover in provider offices, especially during COVID. Some members say, well, I got sick, I can't, so it temporarily, maybe you'll get somebody else, but temporarily you don't have the updated information in CAQH, and that, it can cost you, right? It can cost the provider because you're losing out, you're missing out on potential members calling you for services. And the truth is, with COVID, we as, the community, we need you, right? We need the providers. We need to be able to say, if I need, to see this type of specialist, why can't I get in touch with him? This is not the correct number. Well, the health plans doesn't have the correct number because the CAQH doesn't have the correct number. So that's what I want to kind of explain. CAQH is very, very important that you keep it up to date. It has to be updated every 120 days where you sign an attestation on CAQH. What happens is that whoever you have as a contact for CAQH to update your demographics, that person gets an email from CAQH saying about 2 weeks in advance saying your CAQH needs to be attested that all is true and valid, up to date, and the provider signs, or whoever you designate will sign. But it has to be signed. Otherwise, if it's not attested, the providers or the health plans will not have access. CAQH will not let them look at your CAQH, your data, because they know that you have not attested that it is true and correct. So please remember to update your CAQH. I have a link. The CAQ is CAQH ProView Provider User Guide .v30. You can always go on there. CAQH ProView Provider User Guide .v30. It's a PDF, and it will show you or your staff, whoever you want to assign, to navigate through CAQH and make sure that everything is up to date. Now, there are very particulars on CAQH that you have to answer every single question. A lot of providers or their staff, whoever is designated, if, for example, it says, do you have access for, so for wheelchair access, like, are your doors wide enough, right? Some people just skip that. There is a yes or no question. There are many yes or no questions, and you have to answer every yes or no question, even if it's a very obvious question. It's like, well, do you have bathrooms? Yes, but you have to answer it. Otherwise, your credentialing process will delay. Wow. Because in your application, in an application that you're sending to a health plan, the application says, do you have wheelchair accessibility? And you say, yes. So we have, the parking lot for, designated for the disabled. And you say yes. And they pull your CAQH, your CAQH doesn't match. They don't know which one is true because you just signed one, but the other one does not have the same information. So your credentialing will stop. And then you got to start the process all over again. So those are my suggestions. CAQH, very important. Keep it updated. Answer every single question. Your CV must be updated. Have to have a CV in there. A lot of providers say, why? Well, it's just required. If you haven't, if you stopped working at one facility and started working at another, it has to be on your CV. So everything has to be updated every 120 days. Make sure that all demographics, all of your contact information is up to date.
It's almost like, it sounds like a Yellow Pages ad, right?
It's words. It has everything.
It's like a directory, right? So if you don't update your information, people are not going to be able to find you, right?
That is correct. And it's used by every health plan out there. So why would I want, not to have that updated? You want my phone number, right? You want my fax number. You want my contact information. If I have multiple practices, there's practice number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. List all practices that you actually participate in, because then all of those will be listed in the directory. If it's not listed there, that health plan's directory will not have that location listed.
Wow.
And it's very important that's updated. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Christina Miller says, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Christina. Hope everything is going good in Port St. Lucie. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about.
Hi, Christina. Sorry. Go ahead.
Contracting. Are you contracting with all lines of business? Tell us about that.
Okay, so very important that that providers know that health plans normally, you would know that they have more than one line of business, right? So, for example, you'll have a Medicare line of business. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I am with this insurance plan HMO, this insurance plan PPO, or POS, point of service, or ACO. So there are a lot of different lines of business. Just because you're contracted, you have a contract with the health plan, doesn't mean that you participate or that you are participating provider with that particular policy. So if I have an insurance plan and I see and I say, well, I know that my health plans shows this provider. This provider, and I call. The health plan shows this provider, but my policy is not for that provider because that provider limited the contract to PPO line of business. It's like, okay, I want to become contracted with you, but I don't want an HMO, or I want HMO and not PPO, or And there are some that have like different policies. And if you're not participating, what happens is either the member can be seen, but the member pays more out of pocket, which is going to make that member select a different provider, possibly, right? Or the member is going to try to make an appointment, go in and be disappointed to find out that you're participating, but not with my line of business. It's like, why not? So we want to make sure that, that we leverage all lines of business, all members out there for, it's like, if you have that, why not? You can always control your schedule, right? So, you have your schedule and you say, I have slots in my in my schedule for, to make sure that every member type can be seen, right? Every policy type. So it's very important, I think, that you review your contracts, see, know your contract. Don't say, okay, I have a contract with them and that's it. No, what's your rate? What line of business can you accept? Are you putting that, are you sending the members, or are you marketing that, right? It's like, does anybody know that I participate with all of them? Come to me, right? That's what we want. So just make sure that, please look at your contracts, look at your rates, look at the lines of business that you are contracted with. My suggestion is also have your front office call the insurance companies and get your provider ID. What is your provider ID with that particular line of business? What is the effective date? Right? All of those things, and then of course, just look at your rates and make sure that it's something that works for you in your practice. Let's see.
So it sounds like to me that's kind of a surefire way of being able to get more members to your practice. That's what it
Absolutely.
Really
Yeah, and now with telemedicine, I mean, members really, they really want to be seen. They know that they don't have to drive to the office. So there's a lot more people actually making appointments with providers, which is great. But you want to be one of them, right? So if you let's make sure you look at the contract, call the insurance companies, and we can do that for you. We can call the insurance companies and say, if we have a copy of the contract, we can review the contract, we'll see the lines of business, contact the health plans and say, okay, now we want them credentialed to that line of business. How do we add them? And we can look and see, you need this provider type in your service area. If it's a gastro, well, you only have 2 gastros for maybe 300,000 people. So how's that going to work for the members, right? How's that healthy? So right. How do we help our community? We think about the provider, we think about the community, and we think about the health plan. We just have to have the correct data out there. So we can help you with that.
Awesome. So I would imagine you probably see it quite often that there are providers that are just not set up properly with this, right? And losing out on opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another thing, that comes to mind is sometimes, like I was saying, you think you're contracted, you say, okay, it doesn't matter. We'll see this member because I'm contracted with this health plan. Well, then you see the member and you build a health plan, and then the health plan says, no, you're not contracted for that line of business. So you find out the other way around, because if somebody didn't verify, that the provider is contracted, and, when they verified the member's benefits, then you didn't look at the contract. Now you saw a member for free. Right? Wow. Because that claim came back denied, or rejected. I don't recognize that. So it's really important that we review the contracts, and that's something that we can do for you.
That's awesome. Good information. So I've been hearing more and more about this HEDIS. I never knew what it stood for, and now I do. It's Healthcare Effective Data and Information Set. And boy, is that a mouthful. So
it is. Wow. It is a mouthful. Yes.
So what is HEDIS and how does that apply?
Yeah. So HEDIS is very important. It's used by Medicare, Medicaid, and it's actually used to measure the provider's performance with members. So if, for example, if a health plan says, okay, this is my member, I'm a health plan, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to let you be the primary care physician, but I'm going to check on you. I want to know how you're doing. So what they do is they look at these measures, and they do that by looking at your billing. But they look at the claims, the encounters. They ask for medical records and audits. And what they'll look at is like well child visits. They'll look at prenatal, perinatal care, comprehensive diabetes care, other chronic and acute care, mental health, big now, mental health and substance abuse, and other preventives. So other preventive would be maybe like potential preventive emergency room, right? Like if you as a primary care physician would contact the member and say, you have a history of asthma. I want to see you every 3 months. 6 months pass, the member doesn't come in. He ends up in the emergency room. That doesn't make the provider look like he's being very maybe responsible for that member. That's how they measure it. So HEDIS is really like it just represents what the provider, like, how are you treating our members? And that's how they do it. And a lot of times, it's not that the provider, like if your well child visits are not meeting, if there's a 70%, like you have to meet 70% of your membership in order to meet that HEDIS measure, then it could be because, you did see the child for a well child visit, but maybe the coding was not correct, right? So when the claim gets processed, it doesn't necessarily hit that measure. And we want it to hit the measure, right? For children, they do lead screening. Lead screening is also one of the big ones, right? So if you do lead screening every time a child comes in, but your staff is not billing for the lead screening, you're not getting credit for it. Even if you don't get paid for a code, billing for it is very important. Another, like that's for well child, and the other is like for adults, the adult BMI. When the member comes in, you do the body mass index, right? But you say, okay, the front office will bill for the office visit, but they didn't add the code, the BMI. It's like, okay, but we don't know that you did it if you didn't bill for it, because that's what they use. And ways to let the health plans know, say, no, I did do it, is by sending medical records. And that's why the information is gathered from claims, the way you build it, from encounters, which is when the encounters are sent into the state, or by medical records and other ways as well. But HEDIS measures, as I'm sure everybody knows, will affect, your star rating as a provider. Like how does the health plan rate you? So if you want them to rate you at a 4 or above, then you want to make sure you're billing correctly, that you're adding everything, every service that you're performing has to be billed. And that star rating will then get you more members. And also any providers that have 4 stars and above, you can, you're probably going to get members on a constant basis rather than an open enrollment, which I think in Florida, I think it's in October, open enrollment. I don't know if it's different in other states, but you'll get the members throughout, and rather than just an open enrollment. So you want to have the highest stars. You want to at least be a 4-star. It takes time to get there. Some are at 2.5. It's okay. Let's move this. All we got to do, to move the needle is get the medical records in. So we can do that for you. There's a lot that Pharus Group and Pharus Practice in general we can do for you. It's going to increase your revenue. Very little work on your end. If you give us access to your EMR, we can do that for you, and you'll see that your measures will increase.
So it sounds like anything else. Restaurants have stars, hotels have stars, medical practices have stars, and it sounds like there are different buckets that they have to fill up to be able to get those stars, right?
Buckets, yes.
So it sounds like there's a way to send out an SOS. We can come into the rescue, right? be able to help these practices get cleaned up and get in better order so they can get higher ratings.
Correct. That is right. Yeah, there's not the. I mean, I've been with Pharus Practice for just 6 weeks or so, right? And
Hmm.
I've learned that, I mean, there is so much that we have to offer that if there's anything that your practice feels that you feel, it's like, I need help with this, we can help. I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. We will help you. We do, it's our passion. We do it with our heart. We do it with you in mind. It's not us. It's like, it's you, the member, the community. It's very important to us that everybody gets credit where it's deserved, and that's what we want to do for you.
Awesome. So Charlotte Renee says she's a 5-star for 25 years. How cool is that?
Congratulations, Charlotte. That's amazing.
That's awesome. That is
Good
awesome.
job.
Charlotte is watching us from Facebook. Thank you for joining and watching us today, Charlotte. Congratulations. All right. So moving to our next category, I'm excited to hear about this too. Value-based contracts. And do you know who you have a value-based contract with? VBDs, I've been hearing value, or VBCs in this case, I should say. I've been hearing about this a lot as well. So I'm excited. Tell us about that.
Okay, yep. So the health plans offer providers value-based contracts. So they offer the practice of value-based contract. A value-based contract provides incentives for quality service. In these value-based contracts, you do want to ask your staff if like, who do I have a value-based contract with? That's what I want to start with, because you could have a contract with 5 different health plans, and you're going to get your reimbursement for every health plan for your billing like normal, right? That does not change. A value-based contract is in addition to the contract. That's an incentive. That's something based on your service, quality of service. So if you're looking at your revenue, or what you're receiving from each health plan according to your contract, that's perfect. That stays the same throughout all the years. That's my contract with this health plan. Yep, 100%, 120%, 90%, whatever it is, right? But what happened to your value-based contract? Somebody came in from a health plan, you reviewed it, someone signed it, an executive signed it, but it could be kind of hidden in a drawer somewhere, and you don't know that you are literally throwing away dollars, right? There are dollars going out the door because your value-based contracts tells you the HEDIS measures that you should focus on for each health plan. So if there's one health plan that says, okay, I'm offering you a value-based contract because you have 500 of our members, right? You have 500 of my members, and I want to make sure that you do well. And if you do well and you take care of our members, we do well, we're going to incentivize you. Okay, I'm going to list all the measures where you're not doing so well. So increase those for me, right? And then they give you an incentive. If you don't know that you have a value-based contract, you're not looking at that value-based contract, you're not focusing on those measures.
Right.
There's a way you can actually, and that is, and I'll tell you about value-based contracts. Let's say this year, it's a shared savings. Let's say in 2020, you service these 400, 500 members, service all these 500 members. You'll get, maybe you're getting an incentive, maybe you're getting $1,000 check, maybe you're getting a $5,000 check. But the potential, if you really calculate it, could be 150,000, 400,000.
Wow.
It depends because you're missing something. You're not focusing on the measures that are on that value-based contract. You saw the member came in and went out the door, and you forgot to do that one thing.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, so it's wonderful that you're seeing the member, but think about, you think about, what can I do for me, right? Okay, so if a member is coming in, you have to look at the care gap reports. What measure has that member not received, right? What have I not billed for this patient?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't bill it, you didn't perform it according to the health plan, right? So
Right.
we want to figure out which codes or which, HEDIS measures need to be performed in order to get me that really nice check at the end of the year, right? And what the health plans are going to do is they'll measure you according to your performance the year before. So last year you performed, and maybe you got $1,000 check. This year you performed better. They're going to give you even more. Like, wow, you just keep improving. We're going to keep giving you more. But really, I'm just saying, please look at your value-based contracts. The HEDIS measures are listed in your value-based contract. Each value-based contract is different for each health plan. So if you're looking at one, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the good check from the other one. So you have to look at it all. You want to pull care gap reports for each health plan for all those members. Say, where are my gaps in care for these members? I got to get them in the door, right? Get those members in. They deserve the quality service. But in addition to that, you deserve to get compensated. And the health plans want to do that. You just have to, you have to know your contracts. And we can, again, help you with that.
So it's unbelievable. I love the, it's almost like a pyramid that you're forming, right? With each of these things that we're talking about, you have to have your credentialing in place, and then contracting, make sure you're with all the lines of business. With HEDIS, you fill up the buckets. And then with the value-based contracts, they almost kind of force you to fill up those buckets if you know about the value-based contracts, right?
So yeah.
One builds on the other, it sounds like. So the trick to the whole thing is you have to have people in place that can make sure that you're aware of all of these things as a practice to be able to take advantage of all of them, right?
Right. That's right. And, I hope these points, are helpful for all the health plans. I do have a couple more to go through, but, it's really important that, I just want to make sure that you get the best, I guess, you get your incentive as deserved, right? And the members get the best care. So, I'm on both ends. Remember, I'm on the provider side, and then I worked on the health plan side. So I'm just, I just want to make sure everything is fair. You have a contract, go look at it. Yeah, they're offering it to you because you deserve it, because you have the members that can actually, fill that you can fill that need for them. So
everybody loves incentive and getting paid incentive commission. It's like a salary plus your commission is basically what it is.
Exactly. That's a nice check at the end of the year, I'll tell you.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. So moving on, I love this one. I can't wait for you to explain it, because MMA, and no, that's not the mixed martial arts we're talking about here. MMA, Physician Incentive Program. So it's the MPIP, right?
MPIP, yes.
MPIP. So tell us about that.
All right. So the Managed Medical Assistance Program has an incentive program. It's called MPIP. MMA, Physician Incentive Program. That's the acronym, MPIP. Okay. And it's for pediatricians and mostly pediatricians and some specialists. And I'm not sure. I think I can actually get a list of those providers. But the state of Florida determines MPIP qualifications by the Medicaid health plan. I know a lot of us do. A lot of us providers do service Medicaid health plans. And the good thing is that those MPIP rates, they're similar or equal to the Medicare allowable rates. So as much as providers say, I don't want to be a part of a Medicaid plan because they don't reimburse well, since MPIP, it's pretty good. So it's no longer that low, straight, flat Medicaid rate. Now there are MPIP rates for particular providers. And I can actually determine if anybody would like to know if you are an approved MPIP provider, you can call me or actually email me or the practice would be best with your name and MPI, because I can look and see whether or not, you should be reimbursed at MPIP rates. What I would recommend actually, like initially, is to contact your front office person or your biller, and make sure that if you are an MPIP provider, that you are getting reimbursed the MPIP rates. Okay, because just because you are listed as an MPIP provider doesn't mean the health plan has actually loaded you to be reimbursed those rates, because of course, every health plan has a system. So are you getting paid straight Medicaid, or are you getting paid the MPIP rates, which is very close to Medicare rates, or exactly Medicare rates. Very important. Again, this is all about, revenue. Get the money in, everything that you deserve. If you're a part of that, you need to make sure, just confirm every one of your providers is, is, if you're MPIP eligible, that you are actually getting your MPIP rates from every health plan, not just one. Because again, they all have different systems. Yeah.
They like to complicate things for everybody, don't they?
They do. They're like, well, I'll give it to you if you can find it, right? So we're finding it. That's what we've got to do, is say, no, we found it. I'm supposed to get this. And maybe I was supposed to be getting it since October of last year. So then they have to go back and make sure that they pay you that. Okay.
Awesome. All right. So before we continue, we have, I think, one last category, which is very exciting. If everybody's enjoying what they're seeing out here, please give us a like or a love. We like to get those hearts or the little thumbs up. And let's see, most recently, Christina Miller gave us a heart. So thank you for that. She has my heart. That's my girlfriend, actually. And then let's see, Louis DiRamondo is out there giving us a thumbs up. And our very own Chris Morehart, the original founder of Pharus Group and my partner in crime, or not in crime.
No crime.
So thanks for being out there. Louis, thank you for being out there. Louis is the hot dog king. He actually builds really cool hot dog carts. So,
cool.
So if you like what you're hearing, send up the like, send up the love with the hearts, and we appreciate that. And if you're on YouTube, hit that little bell so you get notified of upcoming shows in the future. So thank you, everybody. All right. Last but definitely not least, Lillian, we're talking about billing and collections. Everybody loves collections, right? When the money comes in. We want the money. So tell us about what you do to help with billing and collections.
Okay. So what we would like to do, I know that billing is simple, right? As long as we don't miss any codes so that we can get those HEDIS measures met. We do have to do collections. Sometimes we'll miss a modifier, right? That's simple. You bill, you send a corrected claim. Oops, I forgot the modifier. Easy. But then there are some that are denial regions or rejections that are.
We don't like those, right?
No.
Denials and rejections.
No, we don't want denials and rejections, especially when it's really on our end to fix, and you have a limited time according to your contract, because you have to know your contract. According to your contract, and they're all different, you have a certain appeal time frame, right? So you could have billed the claim, you service the member today, you bill the claim tomorrow electronically, you get a denial in 10 days, just an example. And now you have, according to your contract, maybe 90 days to appeal from either the denial date or from the date of service. All of that comes into play. Very important that you know your contract. So when the denial is actually because your MPI is not active, that's a problem, because that's time consuming, right? Because what happens is, if your MPI is not active, your front office or your staff is going to have to contact NIPS, and then I call it NIPS, NPPES, right? Okay, contact NIPS, find out what's going on, update the NPI, and then contact Medicaid and Medicare, whichever one is affected, or possibly both, to make sure that that is updated to reflect active status. And then you can send in your corrected claim or your appeal or your complaint form, whatever it is that the health plan requires that you do in order to finally have that claim processed. So now this is not just a visit, 45-minute visit with a member. You've turned this into this huge, I don't know how many hours it can take, from your staff's time just to fix one thing and then have everything updated. So it's very important that maybe, at least maybe every 6 months, have somebody look and make sure that your NPI is on active status with Medicare and Medicaid. Another provider NPI encounter denial, check for active status by location. So your NPI is good. It's like, well, what do you mean it's denied for not active? As well, not for that location. So very important. You update your NPI with those locations and you update your CAQH, right? Wow. Because if you don't update your CAQH with that location, they're going to say, I don't have that NPI for that location. There's a lot of things to look at. But the rejections will be for things like this that will be very time consuming after the fact. And you can't bill a member if they're Medicaid, right? You can't, billing a member because the staff made a mistake because we forgot to check your credentials, you forgot to update the NPI or the address, the provider loses really. Right. Or the billing provider is another one. Is not enrolled to bill the service that was submitted. That's another one. So maybe a member comes in and you remove a skin tag. I don't know. And they say, well, nope, according to your contract, you're supposed to be sending that person to a dermatologist, right? Could be, I don't know, your contract, but this is another denial reason that will come in. The provider is not enrolled to bill the service that was submitted. You are not, it could be lab work. It's like, okay, no, you have to use Quest. You have to use LabCorp. You have to, you cannot do lab services in your office because that's not what we contracted you for. It's not carved out or we didn't, it's just not a part of the contract. And also the taxonomy. In Florida, that I know, in Florida, the taxonomy, you have to make sure, just verify the appropriate provider type using the provider master list. So if you go onto the PML, if everyone is familiar with the PML on the Florida Medicaid web portal, it's called the provider master list. When providers are enrolled with Medicaid, Medicaid requires a taxonomy, which you're getting from your NIPS. Right? So this is a taxonomy. The taxonomy identifies your provider type. So if your provider type that you selected does not match what you actually service, you're not going to get that claim paid. So that's something else to look at. Does my taxonomy match what my services are? Some providers say, oh, I'm a pediatrician. Okay, but according to your taxonomy, or I'm family practice, right? I see all ages. Not according to your taxonomy. Your taxonomy says you can see only 0 to 20. So when you see that 35-year-old, your claim is going to get denied because you're not allowed to see that person according to your taxonomy. So just update your taxonomy. But these are things to, very important, very time consuming. This is something you want to check in the beginning and not at the end when your claims start denying or rejecting. If the health plans don't get paid, they're not going to pay you. Or they'll pay you and then they'll have to audit and take the money back. Things to think about, you want to keep your practice growing. And so I hope all these points have been good and helpful.
Absolutely. So I have a quick question. We talked about the billing as one of the rejection or denial reasons. The billing provider is not enrolled to bill the service. Are there certain times when it's not the provider's fault, that it may be the plan or something,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it could be, sometimes it could be because either the member eligibility wasn't verified, which you can do through Availity. I can do availability training if anyone needs as well. That's something I can do for your practices, and it can be done virtually. But you go into availability, verify member eligibility, make sure that you have the correct member ID number, right? The date of birth. Be careful. A lot of times, also there are children that are very close, and could be twins, for example. It's like, okay, they have different ID numbers. They're two separate people. They have the same date of birth. Happens so often. They're just using the wrong ID number for the wrong child.
Wow.
And that's, so a lot, it can be, it could be human error, I mean, just you pick the wrong one. Sorry. They just look so similar. Not verifying member eligibility. Very important for that same date of service. You don't verify member eligibility today for everybody coming in next week. You verify member eligibility today for today, every day. And also asking if they have other insurance as primary. What other insurance do you have? If the member doesn't tell you that, oh, by the way, I have Medicare as primary, but they gave you Blue Cross is going to deny it because they're going to want a Medicare EOB. So things like that, very, just asking the right questions, always in the beginning to avoid all these issues at the end.
That is a lot to deal with, huh? Wow. I know. I feel overheated just thinking about all that stuff. So you have to deal with this on a daily basis. Holy moly.
This is what the provider practices go through every day on a daily basis. Yes. And it takes multiple people. It's not just one person. This is, lots of people in there and your staff that are dealing with these issues to make sure that everything is done properly. That you're receiving your reimbursement correctly, such as MPIP, that your claims are not denying or your encounters are not getting rejected because the MPI or, enrollment is not, is not updated. It's a lot, your CAQH must be updated. Very important. I recommend it for everybody, whether you have any issues at all or not. Go into your CAQH and make sure everything is correct.
Awesome. Well, this was really, really informative. I'm excited because I learned a ton of stuff now that's going on with Pharus Practice, and hopefully can get some more referrals coming your way. And I hope our audience got some good information from this as well. We will have this on replay on our YouTube channel at Pharus Global for eternity. So if anybody would like to take another listen, please do share it. And it'll be on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So please let folks know that this information is available. Lillian, this was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Is there anything before we say goodnight to the audience? Anything else that we may have missed or anything that you'd like to add?
Oh, I think, like I said, very important. Just a reminder, look at your value-based contracts. Look at your value-based contracts. You have contracts and you don't even know it. Ask your staff, okay? Very important. That's money. It's just you're just throwing out the door. You could be getting that in. So I just want to remind you to do that. Okay.
Well, thank you again. If anybody would like to reach Lillian to talk about practice management, billing, and coding with Pharus Practice, our information is there at the bottom. It's Lillian Garcia. Email lillian@pharuspractice.com. Phone number is 561-707-4907. Love that area code because I was originally down in Palm Beach County as well. So thank you again for being with us, Lillian. And everybody have a great night. If you would like to be on the show in the future, you can contact us at pharusglobal.com. Our information is there. We'd love to have you and talk about your business. Have a great night, Lillian. And everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.